Hey everyone, welcome to On Tap. I'm Chris, and today we will be talking about the first of many Belgian beer brands to be covered on this channel, Stella Artois. Let's get started. So when exactly did this company start? Well, it's not exactly a clear-cut answer. So the company says they've been around since 1366, or at least on the bottles it says since 1366, which is kinda true, but there's more to it than that. There has indeed been a brewery, the Den Hoorn brewery, on the spot in the town of Leuven, Belgium, since that year. And Den Hoorn just means the horn in Dutch, which is an image you can actually still see on the Stella logo. So yes, there has been a brewery in the town of Leuven since 1366. But it wasn't until 1708 that Mr. Sébastien Artois acquired the brewery and renamed it, of course, the Artois Brewery. And even then, the beer that we think of today as the characteristic Stella Artois Pilsner didn't start getting produced by the brewery until the 1920s, 1926 to be exact. When the beer started being produced, it was actually released as a Christmas beer. Yeah, you could only really drink it around the holiday season in the town of Leuven. Stella was the name of the beer because Stella just means star in Latin, associated with the Christmas star. So this Christmas beer and the tradition of it being a Christmas beer is still something the company actually puts forth in their marketing today, as well as some of their product. You can in fact buy an ugly Stella Artois Christmas sweater. Look at that. The beer started becoming more and more successful, as many popular beers we think of being globally recognized tend to do, and by the 1930s, the beer was being exported throughout Europe. In 1960, the brewery was producing around 1.2 million barrels of Stella Artois Pilsner, and by 2006, that number was up to about 12 million. And while that's about half as much as Heineken's flagship lager in terms of volume, you have to remember that Stella Artois is but a subsidiary of Anheuser-Busch InBev. But in a way, they're actually kind of not. So what happened was, in the late 1980s, Stella Artois merged with a number of other beer companies, and they formed a conglomerate. And then that conglomerate merged with another conglomerate of beer companies, and then that conglomerate of beer companies merged with another conglomerate of beer companies to form what we know today as AB InBev. So I guess in a way, Stella wasn't really ever acquired by AB InBev, but you could say they were arguably one of the founding members. Stella Artois, like Belgium itself, has been somewhat linguistically divisive in its marketing. For those of you who don't know, Belgium is a small country in Western Europe, divided between the Dutch-speaking northern half of Flanders and the French-speaking southern half of Wallonia. Yes, I know that technically they speak Flemish in Flanders, which is a dialect of Dutch, but anyway. While the company is based in Flanders, in recent years, a number of Stella Artois ad campaigns have really tried to market the company as effectively a suave francophone brand. Because let's be serious, what better way to sell your product to a bunch of urbane Americans and Europeans than by portraying yourself as cool, sexy, and French? This has actually led to some confusion, with a lot of people thinking that Stella Artois is a French beer when in fact it is Belgium. And in keeping with all things French and Western European, Stella Artois has found its advertising niche in what else but European cinema. Yeah, that's right. The company gained a lot of traction, in Europe at least, with a number of pretty high-profile commercials that sort of imitated different styles of European cinema. They then eventually became an official sponsor of the Cannes Film Festival, and more recently have expanded their sponsorship to come on board the Sundance Film Festival in the United States, as well as the Independent Spirit Awards and Channel 4 in the UK. The reputation of Stella Artois has ranged from classy to trashy to just very ordinary. If I had to associate a particular country with each of those stereotypes, I would say it's generally seen as more classy in the US, a little bit more trashy in the UK with its historically unfortunate association with lager louts, which I don't think is any fault of the company's, and then very, very ordinary in Belgium. My understanding is it's really seen as just a very, very generic table beer, which is interesting because Stella Artois accounts for something like 70% of Belgian beer exports. But hey, I mean, I guess it makes sense. If the Belgians have a beer game that is at such a high level compared to most other countries around planet Earth, they can produce a beer that by their standards is pretty generic, but by the standards of most people around the world tastes pretty good, and they can export that easily in very high quantities. Stella Artois also has its own chalice, which looks like this. I'll be talking about this more in future videos, but the Belgians have really taken their beer glass game to the next level. There are innumerable Belgian beers, each of which come with their own specific chalice. It's just that because Stella has been exported so much and is so recognizable, the Stella chalice is pretty much associated with the beer. I will be talking about a lot of beer from Belgium, but think of Stella Artois as the first of many steps on the road of learning about the beers of Belgium. Their most popular beer is, unsurprisingly, their flagship Stella Artois Pilsner. This is a very standard, non-offensive beer that you'd think of very much in line with something like their rival, the Heineken Lager. This is going to have some carbonation and an inoffensive, malty, grain-based flavor that I can only describe as beer flavor. But did you know Stella Artois also produces a couple other varieties, such as Stella Artois Cider. That's cider spelled R-E, the Anglo-French way. Started in 2011, this was described as a European cider with some sweetness and dryness. And yes, I am fully aware that cider is not beer. But you know what? It's produced by a brewery, so we're gonna try it today. Solstice Lager. This is a golden lager, which according to the company has been triple filtered. Sounds fancy. The description of the beer is that it has some citrus undertones, as well as a clean, crisp finish. All right, so that's history, current events, and the profiles of the beer. Now let's get to tasting, my favorite part. So first up, we have the classic Stella Artois Lager. And we can see here on the logo, right, Den Hoorn, the little horn, right? And I didn't say, but Anno 1366 just means year of, right, in Latin. So the brewery allegedly has been around there. But as I said, it's a little more complicated than that. Yeah. That basically tastes like a pretty standard lager. It tastes like beer. You know, I would say a Stella tastes kind of like a Heineken, and a Heineken tastes kind of like a Stella. It's a very non-offensive, mild, grain-based alcohol. It's a very standard, generic table lager. You know, you can easily have this in kind of any environment. You know, you can serve it at parties, have it at parties, what have you. You pretty much know exactly what you're gonna get. All right, so next up, we're going to try the Stella Cider. And you can see it is the R-E spelling, the Anglo-French there version with the line under the bottom. So we know it's a Anglo-French spelling, R-E, not E-R, like those pesky Americans would say. All right, and in our cider glass, which I have used for some IPAs, but we can use for cider. All right, so give it a pour. Okay. Yep, it's got that, yeah, sort of that sour cider smell. Yeah, that's very nice actually. That's a very nice cider. It's really well balanced. It's not too sweet and it's not too dry. It doesn't have, you know, like it's sweet, but it doesn't have sort of a sickly sweet or sort of like cloyingly sweet flavor. You know, there are certain ciders out there that they're really basically just sugary fruit juices with some alcohol in them. This doesn't have that. It's got a bit of sweetness, but not that much. It's got a bit of dryness too, so it's semi-sweet, but it's not overly dry either. There are a couple of ciders out there. I think it's a couple of English ciders, specifically Strongbow and Aspel. I think those are very, very dry ciders. And again, this has a little bit more sweetness to that, so it's very nicely balanced. So next up, we have the Solstice Lager. Got a nice gold color. I'm getting some slight citrus notes on that. Okay, let's take a taste. Wow. Huh. Okay. Bear with me here for a second. This is, oh, that's very interesting. All right, hang on. I think I know what I'm going to say about this, but you just hang on. Let me take another taste. Okay, so this is going to sound really corny, but just bear with me here. This tastes kind of like sunshine. Like, okay, so here's what I mean by that. So if you imagined the flavors of sunshine, something that's bright and citrusy, and sort of a little sweet, but also kind of in like a warming way, right? And you took all of those flavors and you turned it into a liquid and you bottled it, and then you gave someone the bottle and you said, drink this. This is liquid sunshine beer. That's kind of what this tastes like. No, seriously. It's got sort of a little bit of a citrusy, sweet flavor to it. It's almost like, it's got similarness to almost like a Corona, and I talked about in the Corona episode how those are sort of bright. This has a little bit of that, but it's a lot less, it's a lot more understated. There's less of an edge to it, right? So it's a lot more of a subtle bright note, and it's a more sort of a warming sensation where it's sort of woven in with other stuff, along with sort of that sweet, citrusy, really feel-good feeling. It's a very interesting flavor, actually. I'm gonna finish this off. This is a rather interesting situation that I find myself in, but that is, in good conscience, I honestly cannot rank order these beers. And the reason for that is because I think they each have such a unique flavor profile compared to the others. Like they're each just their own beverage. I really can't say which one's better or worse than the other. But what I can do is talk about in what situations I'd sort of most want to have them, right? So the Stella Artois, as I said, this is a very standard sort of table beer. This is the kind of thing you can really drink in any environment. It's very easy to sip on. Drink it in the fall, the autumn, spring, the summer. Maybe only situation would be not like a super hot, sort of disgusting, buggy summer, but other than that, this is a really, really non-offensive table lager, and you kind of know what you're gonna get. With this one, with the Solstice Lager, this is a very nice and interesting sort of summery beer, as I said, that sort of captures that feeling of sunshine, of almost like liquid sunshine beer. And I would definitely drink this in the summer, but I think it would actually fit better in sort of more like temperate or warm summers. Really kind of like the sort of summer you might have in Northern Europe, sort of in Belgium or Britain or around Scandinavia maybe. Not so much sort of like humid, hot, disgusting, buggy summers, but this would be sort of a warm, temperate summer beer. And I would also drink it during the day. Actually, there's something about it where it's the name, right? The solstice lager, the summer solstice, right? This would be a great beer to have when it's light outside, where the sun's still out, and as I said, it's a sunny beer. Drinking it in the dark just doesn't really kind of sit right with me for some, I don't know, for some reason. And I also wouldn't have more than one of these. I would definitely have one. I think it's got a very nice taste to it, but it's unique enough. I'm not really sure I'd want to maybe have like two of these. So I'd maybe keep it at one. And then with the cider, as I said, this is a very nicely balanced cider. It's got an excellent mix of some sweetness and some dryness. If you're also not a huge beer drinker, this is, I think, a good cider to go with. It's not going to do you wrong. And I would also, similar to the Solstice, I would drink this one in the summer. Those are the beers of the Stella Artois Brewery as they are currently available to me. And yeah, I hope you enjoy. Let me know what you think in the comments, if my assessment's totally off or if I'm doing an okay job. And if you've tried any of these, yeah, let me know what you think. And I'll see you next time.